time for the new and improved overall brawler ranking list. I'm going to tell you who the best and worst brawlers are and what modes they're good in and not good in. All right, let's do it. All right, as I said, we got a new and improved brawler ranking list for you all. Introducing brawler profiles. Let me know your guys' feedback on this. What it is essentially is I tell you the overall stuff for each brawler. What game modes are they good in? I put how good they are in each game mode from not exactly a ranking, but a category from good, great, okay, and poor. If it's great, brawlers that are great at a mode are definitely above average at that mode compared to other brawlers. For each category, there's going to be somewhere between 4 to 6 brawlers about in each category, just as a general idea. So if a brawler is great, they're definitely above average. If they're good, they're slightly above average to about above average. All right, so we actually have some F tier brawlers in this new brawler ranking list. Normally I haven't, this is the first time we've had an F tier brawler on an overall brawler ranking list for Brawl Stars, but I think you're gonna understand why. All right, at the worst brawler in the game right now, in my opinion, it's gotta be Shelly. Shelly just does not have a game mode where she shines anymore. It used to be an assassin meta with Daryl and Mortis, and she could counter those brawlers really well, but both of those brawlers got nerfs, and it's not a good meta for her, and she's just not very strong right now. She's very map specific. You only really want to play her on maps that are really good for tanks. And honestly, there's not a lot of those anymore. You can play her on maps with like spring traps. It's a great option for her, but otherwise she doesn't really have any game mode where she's that great in. So Shelly's gonna be my worst brawler in the game and an F tier brawler. But we have one other F tier brawler, and it's gonna be Poco at 22. Poco also doesn't have a game mode where he really shines in, and it's also not a good meta for Poco. Poco does like tank metas. It's no longer a tank meta at all anymore, and it's just not a great, Poco doesn't have enough damage, enough stats. Poco's a not bad brawler. Poco doesn't feel really underwhelming, but just also doesn't really have any strengths really. So because Poco doesn't really shine in any place in particular, really below average brawler at almost everything, Poco's gonna be F tier for me. And we have 2 D tier brawlers as well. All right, so at 21, it's gonna be Piper. Now Piper does have a game mode she shines in, and it's gonna be Bounty, and she is definitely one of the best brawlers there. She's also definitely good in duo showdown, where she can have a partner sort of help keep her alive, while she can really use that great individual one-on-one killing ability to her advantage in duo showdown. But outside of those modes, she tends to be a very map-specific brawler and just overall doesn't have the best versatility. So Piper's not going to be very high and very versatile on this list. All right, at 20 and the last D-tier brawler, it's going to be Crow. Now, Crow is definitely really solid in solo showdown, a lot of people's favorite game mode. So I don't know why is Crow ranked so low. He's so amazing. But outside of solo showdown, he tends to struggle. Has really low health, doesn't do much damage, and there's a lot of range brawlers that can really beat up on Crow. He tends to be below average in most game modes besides solo showdown, where he could just poison people and be really annoying and use that fast move speed to survive and do really well in a big game mode like that. But outside of solo showdown, he really struggles versus a lot of different brawlers. He's definitely usable in a lot of different situations, but there tend to be a lot better options than Crow. All right, now we're in the C tier brawlers, and at number 19, it's gonna be Frank. Now, Frank is definitely solid in Siege and in Brawl Ball. Outside of that, he tends to get outmatched in a lot of different situations, or he's just very map specific. He's definitely not great on really open maps. He wants to have walls to help get really easy hits and use that super to be really threatening, but without them, he tends to just take a lot of damage, feed the enemy their supers, and not be quite as useful as you would want. So while he's usable in other game modes besides Brawl Ball and Siege, he's really not one of the better picks for the majority of those modes. At 18 and in the C tier, it's gonna be Primo. Now, Primo, definitely a really similar story to Frank. I mean, you're seeing him actually being good in a lot of the same game modes. He's also a very map-specific brawler, and there's honestly better tanks than him in other situations too. So he tends to get outclassed. He's not a bad option in many cases, but he tends to be like the 3rd or 4th best option in game modes that aren't Brawl Ball or Siege, and that's at best. So Primo, not really strong right now, but he does have his places where he can be used. At 17 and in the C tier, it's going to be Dynamite. Dynamite is a brawler that doesn't really excel at that much right now. He's definitely solid in a couple places like Solo Showdown, Duo Showdown, and in Heist. You can definitely use him pretty well there. Maybe not one of the best options, but definitely a good option. Outside of that, though, the majority of the other brawlers tend to either have better control than Dynamite or better damage than Dynamite. So while you can use him, and he's also a bit of a high skill cap brawler, so if you're really good with Dynamite, you can maybe overcome some of those difficulties, but otherwise there tend to be better options than Dynamite except in those 3 games. At 16, it's gonna be Mortis. Now Mortis did get a nerf last update, but honestly one of the things that's really hurting him in this new ranking list compared to the last one is there's a new game mode that was added to Brawl Stars, Siege, and Mortis is not good at it. At least definitely not in my opinion. I know people's opinion on Mortis in Siege does vary, but think about it this way. You're playing that style role of brawler, aggro role brawler. Who are you picking Mortis instead of? Are you gonna pick Nita, Bull, Leon, Frank, El Primo? I can probably keep on going. You're gonna pick all those brawlers over Mortis in that role. It's definitely not a preferred game mode for Mortis. There's a lot better brawlers than Mortis in that mode. And he really doesn't shine in any particular place right now. He's okay or decent in some modes, but he's really definitely not a strong brawler right now. Now at 15 and the last C tier brawler, it's gonna be Bo. Now Bo is starting to become a pretty solid brawler. You're seeing him a lot more now than you used to be. His damage is now actually pretty dang good and you can't underestimate it. Now his star power is really not that great anymore, honestly, and maybe it could even deserve a buff, because his star power is not nearly as useful as you would want it to be probably for a star power. But Bo is a solid overall brawler, really high health. He's got pretty good damage. You don't want to underestimate it, and those mines can definitely be useful. He's not one of the best picks on most of the game modes, but he's usable in a lot of them. All right, now we're in the B tier, and it's at number 14. And maybe you could argue for this brawler to be in C tier, and I would be okay with it. It's going to be Tara. I think it's interesting Tara's fallen this far, but when you look at it, Tara's a bit of a two-trick wonder, right? She's really good in Gem Grab and Brawl Ball, but outside of that, do you really want to play Tara as one of the better brawlers? It's just not going to happen. You could maybe argue for her to be okay in a couple of those game modes that I listed her as poor in, and maybe that's where she's still in B tier, I think, because she is a solid brawler in some ways, but really it's just not meant for her. There's a lot of different brawlers. She's great in ones where people tend to group up around an objective, like happens all the time in Gem Grab and in Brawl Ball, where you're trying to score goals or have control of the center of the map. But outside of that, and the new game mode, Siege, is also not a great game mode for her. So Tara's actually going to be not that high on the ranking, but she is B tier. All right, at 13 and in the B tier, it's going to be Colt. Now, Colt's position has changed a lot in my brawler rankings, and honestly, that's my own fault. I guess I sort of underestimated how versatile Colt really is. He's not one of the better options, honestly, on any of the game modes, but he's usable in a lot. I mean, if you think about it, damage translates to every single game mode. If you're a high damage brawler, you can probably be used in almost every game mode, and he's ranged brawler at that, so it definitely translates. Now, walls can be an issue for him on a lot of maps. He does have a super, though, that can take down walls, so in a way, he can overcome it to an extent. Is he going to be one of the best options in any of these modes? Not really. Is he usable? Definitely. And if you are good with Colt, you can excel. Colt, versatile brawler, damage always is a good thing to have, and Colt's got a lot of that. At 12 and in the B tier, it's going to be the new brawler, Gene. And actually, I'm going to take this moment to address Carl because I forgot to earlier on. The reason I didn't wait for Carl to come out before doing a new overall ranking is I want to play Carl a lot and really understand him well before I do a ranking video including him. So I wanted to get this one out for you all before it took too long just to figure out Carl. So this way we can do this one now, and then after a couple weeks when we really understand Carl and the new meta that results as a result of it, then we can do a new brawler ranking. Now, Gene is actually pretty solid in a couple different ways. Duo Showdown and Bounty, he can be really good at with that really long poke range damage that can keep on stopping people from healing, and he can also heal his teammates up with his star power. Not a lot, but in those game modes, the star power healing is actually really useful, unlike some of the other game modes So he's a little bit hit or miss. You could have him be good in gem grab, but honestly, I would have ended up having a lot of brawlers as good in gem grab, so he sort of missed the cut. But he's actually not that bad there. He's borderline good at the least. Otherwise, though, he's just okay, but he is pretty usable in a lot of different places. All right, at 11, it's gonna be Bull. Now, Bull got a huge jump up in this ranking. A big part because of the new game mode Siege came out, and Bull is one of the best options in that mode. So that definitely benefited Bull in this ranking. Outside of that, he is really good in Heist, and of course the Daryl nerf made Bull even more important in Heist once again. Outside of that, though, he's really a map-specific brawler, and you're not going to play him that much except on short-range maps with a lot of walls where you can use that shotgun and really high health to be really annoying to people. But in Heist and Siege, he's one of the best brawlers, so Bull is pretty good right now. At number 10 and the last in the B tier, it's going to be Penny. Penny is definitely rising, and look, Siege, Penny, you know how good she is there with that cannon. Any mode where Penny's cannon is really good in, what a coincidence, Penny is good there too. Bounty, Siege, and Gem Grab, Penny's cannon, all really good options the majority of the time. Can be really good for establishing control of the map or dealing damage to the enemy, pushing them back. It's just such a hard thing to deal with because of how much range it has. If you have to approach it to get your objective, it's gonna be a problem, and that's how it is in all three of those modes. So Penny, definitely good in those modes. Outside of that, tends to be just okay. Definitely usable, but there's a lot of other options that you could do that would probably be better than Penny in those other modes. All right, now we're in the A tier brawlers, and at number 9, it's gonna be Rico. Now, Rico is a really interesting case because I have him as good in every single game mode except for one, Solo Showdown, where I have him as okay. So he's clearly a very versatile brawler, kind of similar to Colt, except better. Like, Colt's a straight line brawler. Rico can be a straight line brawler if he wants, or he can just go around a wall like a boss. I mean, Rico can be super difficult to deal with because not a lot of people are able to hit Rico when he can hit them, and he's a high damage brawler. Now, his weakness is, of course, his low health, but if you can't attack Rico, what does it matter? So Rico, really solid option in a lot of different game modes, not that map specific. He doesn't really like super open maps, but with his ability to bounce on walls, he can sort of get around different situations. There's a lot of maps that tend to work well for Rico, and he is just gonna work pretty good to definitely good in a lot of places. At number 8 in the A tier, it's gonna be Daryl. Now, Daryl did get a nerf in the last update with his auto charge super going from taking 20 seconds to 30 seconds, and that was definitely a big nerf to Daryl because that super is a really strong part of why he's so good. Now, he's still a really versatile brawler. He's just no longer quite as dominant as he was before. I'm also gonna say, if you don't have his star power, he's not nearly quite as good. He does rely on it a decent amount, but he's usable in a lot of different situations because of that roll ability and because of the auto charge, but since he doesn't get it quite as much as he used to, he's not quite as dominant. Now at number 7, it's gonna be Nita. Nita, one of the best competitive 3v3 brawlers in the game. Now I say competitive because Bounty's not often played in competitive gameplay. Heist definitely is, but Nita really good at Brawl Ball, Gem Grab, and Siege. One of the best brawlers in all three of those modes. But outside of that, Nita is actually not as versatile, I think, as some of the other brawlers you're going to find higher on this ranking, at least game mode wise. There are some game modes like Showdown and Bounty, and even Heist to a degree, where Nita is really just not quite as good there. Not that Nita is bad, because Nita does have good stats, but there's a lot of brawlers that you would play over Nita on those modes. Now, number 6, it's gonna be Leon. Leon is a beast in both of the Showdown modes, where you can just completely surprise people and get a really advantageous position by eliminating someone, getting a better placement, and more power cubes. But that invisibility is really good in a lot of other modes too. Maybe he's not one of the best options in most of the modes besides the Showdowns, but he's still a playable and a good option in a lot of different places. Look, how are you going to counter invisibility every single time? It's not easy to do so. So Leon can be really difficult to deal with. At the least, he's a solid choice in a lot of places. Now, at number 5, it's going to be Jesse. And if you've noticed, There's actually at least 3 turret users inside my top 10 and 2 in the top 5. This is a turret meta. Turrets are very strong right now, usable in a lot of different places. Jessie, like Nita, one of the best competitive 3v3 brawlers, maybe even a little bit better. I think Jessie is a little bit more versatile, but she does rely on her star power. If you don't have her star power, she's definitely dropping on these rankings, making her a little bit less useful in some places. A little bit harder to get control. Still a good option, but maybe not one of the best. At number 4, it's gonna be Brock. Arguably one of the best, if not the best, long-range option in the game, and he excels with that long range and dealing a good amount of damage and getting kills. Brock is one of the best brawlers for getting kills and staying alive and being really hard to deal with because of that long range. And he has a super that's area of effect super, goes over walls. Brock really good in bounty and heist because of that stuff, but he's also really good in duo showdown because of that as well. But as long as you play Brock smart, use that range to your advantage, you can use him pretty well in a lot of different places. At number 3, it's gonna be Barley. Barley saw that nerf to Daryl and Mortis, and he started celebrating. Look, Barley is really good in this meta. Not only did his counters get nerfed, but look, remember how I said there's 3 turret users in the top 10? Barley is a decent counter to turrets because he can take them out without taking much damage. Although, of course, there is another turret that also fires over walls. But still, Barley's one of the better ones who can take it out. And Barley is one of the best control brawlers in the game. And he's really good in the new game mode, Siege, on top of that. So Barley, really versatile, can actually have decent damage now. He's gotten a couple damage buffs in a row, and now his damage is actually at a really decent level, but he's still one of the best control options with a good enough damage on top of that as well. At number 2, and still in the A tier, that's right, only one S tier brawler this ranking, it's gonna be Spike. Spike doesn't really feel like a dominant brawler, but man, is he versatile. He can be used in every single map, it feels like, in the game, in every single game mode. At the maybe bounty, he's not as great, but he's still definitely viable. And everywhere else, he's at the least good. It doesn't matter how good you are with Spike, he is a really easy brawler to use, really good, great at a lot of different situations, good damage, attack over walls, stop from healing, long range. He has a super that slows people down, area of effect, over walls. That's what I'm saying, dude. Spike can be used in so many different ways. It just makes him so versatile, able to be used everywhere, it seems like. So yeah, Spike, he's my number 2. At number 1, my best brawler in Brawl Stars right now, it is none other than Mama Pam. Look, Pam is an absolute beast right now. Good in what feels like every single mode, so much damage. Long range can stop you from healing, got the healing turret herself, help herself and her allies. Has the star power that's okay, better to have than not have. But look, Pam is just so good in so many different ways. She's good what feels like everywhere. You want to play Pam on your team. You want to know the best brawlers to play with randoms in Siege? Check out that video right over there. That's going to be it for today's video, though. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later.